and set the stage in front of me of the absolute unwavering imperative focus of devoting everything I have to making art was spelled out really clearly for me. And it's been something that's been pointing at the creative process is a feature of devoting every part of my life to allowing this current to be to move through me. There's a creative current that's informing all observable phenomena, and in order to really authentically translate this current, I need to cater every part of my life to that current, and it's been something that I've like the creation of the art itself is a byproduct of the devotion to this current. And yeah, it's been something that has oriented my life in a very clear direction, that, you know, it's about the way that the food that I eat and the people I surround myself with and where I choose to be geographically and what kind of community I want to be a part of has all been a part of this, all pointing at this process that I have no choice but to devote myself to, because if I don't, it's a really uncomfortable place to be and a really unrelatable place to be. But if I, you know, with the support that I have and the community I have and the festival culture is a really amazing thing to be supported by and be, you know, embraced by. Without this, I don't know how I would be able to do this without losing my mind. If I didn't have this kind of community to, you know, back up what this experience is and have it be a relatable thing, yeah, I don't know what kind of character I would be. But.
Yeah, I think everybody here could agree, especially us artists here on this panel, that you know, it's hard. It's a lot of work, and you know, we can't just make art all the time. So there's a lot else to it. You know, you have like Andrew that's trying to build, you know, a whole pioneering virtual reality, augmented reality, and a whole new experience that's never been done. We have Cosm under creation, you know, which will certainly be a monument for the whole world to remember forever. You know, Chris is just traveling constantly, just an open fountain of art and creativity always. And, you know, Amanda as well, you know, from teaching and her fashion line, you guys, your school, Luke, you know, it's tough. I know you guys, you know, traveling and just, you know, it's just a lot of work, and it's a challenge to, you know, maintain that connection. So I'm really interested if you guys could share anything with anyone here, you know, who also, everybody, you know, has their thing that they do. How do you stay connected to that spirit in the midst of all the hustle? You know, do you have any tools or practices or anything that, like, you know, keeps that spirit alive in the midst of, you know, everything else that we're trying to do that's a little bit more like, you know, grounded and earth plane, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, what do you have, you know, share with these people what skills and tools you've developed in order to maintain that connection.
Well, I think it's all actually a loop of feeding. It's like this giving, the sharing with traveling, and somebody chooses to share a story with me of an experience they had at that painting, and it just, my heart just opens wider, you know. So I feel like there's an immense amount of nourishment that I go away with coming to these gatherings, you know. And teaching, it's something that I feel even more like drawn towards, because I see so much transformation happen. And I think like giving people more tools to be able to do it is, you know, that for them to just remember that they have that in them, that every one of us has our own unique expression, and that we shouldn't have any fears around doing that, and to create time to do that. You know, it's a real practice and dedication. So that feels fulfilling and nourishing to me.
Well, how to stay connected to an artistic path or a creative practice in the midst of the infinite world of distraction. I think we'd all agree that we're the visionary art umbrella encompasses sacred art, and that we have a devotion to the sacred. The root of the word sacred relates to sacrifice, and we've all given up something. We've all made some sort of sacrifice to create sacred art in some way. And I really feel that there's a devotional aspect to what we do, and that it's really about showing up for that spiritual practice, and maintaining that devotion daily as much as possible, and that being a channel for that creative expression to manifest in different ways. And it isn't always directly through painting. We find fulfillment in a lot of different creative outlets, whether that's through architecture, construction, or teaching, or the act of making art itself. But just finding ways to live creatively and maintaining that open channel for creativity to flow through.
I think, okay, so you can make a sandwich, for yourself over the sink when you're hungry. You get home from work and you just cram some eggs and bread and you just stare out the window and eat over the sink and the crumbs fall. You feed the body. Or you can make a sandwich for your beloved. You can put it on a plate, and put the chips on the side and a little slice of pickle, and you bring it out to them in the room and you say, I made you a sandwich, and there's a reward there. You can also prepare a sandwich for God and then eat it yourself. But that third, the latter, like God is a very intimate and perhaps arbitrary personal choice, whatever that is. But when you make that sandwich or take that shower or make that painting in the third slot, it's its own reward. It's energizing and enervating. And I think that's how we approach it, Gratitude gets thrown around a lot in these circles and maybe overused, but we experience a lot of gratitude for each other and for this amazing lifestyle. Guys, we're here at Symbiosis. Look around, right? So that's how we approach it, do you have anything to add?
So I feel like everybody's creative path is like the chapters of a book, and I've gone through lots of different chapters in my life, being drawn in by different concepts and different experiences that have shaped what I want to convey and what I'm interested in. And I would say that as far as a spiritual aspect, what really the chapter that I'm in now, I feel like I'm at the end of the chapter, but at the beginning I had this really intense psychedelic experience that brought me to this place that I had to relay to everybody else, and I wanted to show that and kind of have it be a mirror for myself and for others, that these might be places that actually exist somewhere, someplace, sometime. And I'm not sure what the next chapter is going to bring, but I feel like there's definitely going to be a catalyst, a experience that's going to push me. I'm very curious. I go through all these different phases of being drawn into nature, patterns in nature, fractals, and then also being drawn in by architecture. What I feel is like maybe architecture of the soul is something I try to create a lot. And so, I'm not really sure what the next chapter is going to be, but I'm very anxious to know what that's going to be. Thank you.
Yeah, touching on kind of what Jonathan was saying, I think remembering in the midst of all the travel and meeting different people and trying to do different paintings and working and being in different countries all over the places, remembering that to stay open, because the things you need will always come to you when you're following the thing that you love and following the path that you should be on. And I think getting closed off or getting too caught up in the fact that how your body feels physically, and just remembering to try and stay centered so that you can still be open up to all the things you need coming to you as you're constantly giving out what you can with your painting and your art. And it always happens. You're always rejuvenated by the gifts that come back. So, yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, so I think, I myself could say that through my experience, through creating art, that I've, received more optimism about the future of this planet and of our race. And I don't think we've ever been in this kind of a crossroads, a pivotal moment, in this country and in this world like we are now. And we can all agree to that, I'm sure. So more now than ever, we need optimism, we need positivity, and I think we all receive that in our work. And luckily for us, we have a tangible form that we can learn from when that inspiration is crystallized into the art that we make. But is there anything you guys could share through your personal experience, like why we should be optimistic? I think it's important now for us in this adversity and the challenge that we see and we face every day, and the hysteria that ensues as we approach this festival. I've never seen so much paranoia and hysteria that was just like lit like it sparked, and it just spread like wildfire. And I can really see that there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of trepidation in the field right now. And visionary art has definitely been a very healing tool for me, because what has been revealed just through the process of creation and what I can see and learn from that, I wasn't thinking of, I wasn't planning, and something, that's a real message to me from something that came from something beyond the non-physical. And for me, that's why it's so real. That's why everything that I've experienced, kind of like future visions of community, of sharing art, and just what we are seeing, has all come true. So many things that I've seen from the very beginning of this process of art and creativity have been coming true. Meanwhile, things are going downhill on the other end. So what can you guys say to the crowd about your experience with optimism and positivity, and what we can do in this situation and what they can do?
Why should I be optimistic? My creative journey and the path that's presented itself to me has been the most staggering, jaw-dropping, phenomenal affirmation of unwavering, palpable, tangible, just visceral, accessible realization of support from the whole system that we're embedded in has been playing itself out through my creative process. It's a feedback loop that is revealing itself through my creativity, and that's why I'm devoted and dedicated before anything else to this process, is because it just keeps spelling itself out over and over and over again, that there's some kind of sentient intelligence that is guiding this process. And from the very beginning, the first revelation of my own creative direction being just laid out on a golden platter, that this is what's up, this is what everything I need to devote myself to is right here, and if I just do this, everything is going to be okay. And I don't have any kind of minimally having a clear narrative or direction with my art, and just accessing a kind of autopilot current that spells something out that is so amazing to me, and that's something that I couldn't have possibly made the decision to make. But when I bring it into these environments and I'm surrounded by all these people that really get what it is that I'm doing, and they reveal some relation to what, a relationship to my artwork, and they're giving me this really profound experience they're having with it that's so synonymous with the process that I went through to make it makes me feel like there's the bridge has been made, the connection's there. As long as I'm creating the conditions in my life, in my my day to day, just creating the setting the stage for this process to happen, something's going to happen that's beyond my conscious mind, that is supportive of something so beyond my imagination, and that it just affirms that there's a higher intelligence that has my best interest in mind and wants me to be my highest expression of myself. All I have to do is just live my life in a way where I'm in a relationship with trust and embrace and unconditional love, and just cater everything I can do to that state, and then my art is a byproduct of that state, and then I bring my art to these environments and people affirm to me that I'm totally on course, and that I'm making connections with people that are so deep, like way beyond the personality, like way deep into the the unprocessed shadow material of the collective consciousness. There's some reconciling going on, and some really deep layers are being addressed that I'm not consciously putting that into the art. It's not the narrative of my art, but it's what's being reflected back to me when I know that that's the process that I'm going through when I'm creating it. So when people are coming to me with that, I know that it's real. Like it's a real experience. It's not so. I'm not putting that in the description of the painting, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I also experienced that." It's like, it's not. It's way deeper than that, and so that's the affirmation that I get. That as long as I'm creating the conditions, not only in my creative process and when I'm painting, but in everything I do in my life, and so I receive the benefit. I receive the byproduct of that attentiveness to that condition, and. So I don't really need any more affirmation, because it's been played out over and over and over and over and over again throughout my life. But it's such a phenomenal reward, especially in these environments when people are able to reflect that back to me. There's like, I get it. Your experience is my experience, and my art is somehow like putting a foot in the door between dimensions so that this stuff can translate through to people that don't have the skills or the mediums to apply their own experience with that. So if I can do that with the medium that I have, and people can have that experience through my medium, then that's a phenomenal affirmation. That I know that there's a higher directive that's just orchestrating all of this, and all I have to do is just allow for the condition and cater my life to that condition, and it will happen. And that's high magic.
I think, really quick, if you are interested in optimism, really the only stuff I've seen that works is learning to love to wash dishes and sweep the floor. No shit. Folding laundry. Figure out how to love doing those activities, and it's a really great foundation for being optimistic in the face of war and rape and all the other lovely things humans do. And also be a painter and study astronomy. And that's an optimistic road. Yeah, thank you.
I think this environment is proof that there's a reason to be optimistic. That this many people show up to a highly curated, aesthetic, creative environment such as this is proof that this creative culture is growing, and that it's valued, and that it has a place, and that it's wanted and needed. Why be optimistic? Jeez. Fears for the uninformed. Yeah, chaos and order both have their place in creativity. And for anyone who's ever created anything, they know that there's a time for the chaos, there's a time for fear, and there's, it has its role to play in all of it. And yeah, I think that just the fact that we all show up to do these things is proof enough for a reason to be optimistic.
So I think that definitely we gotta be positive. Shit's sucking right now, really hard for me, at least in my perspective. Stuff's pretty nutty, and it gets you kind of bummed out a lot. But you know, Joseph Campbell had this thing called, you know, the hero's journey, and I think what humanity is going through right now is the dark night of the soul. We always gotta go like really down before we get shot up back up. You know, like in that scene in Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, where Luke's in the spaceship with the Emperor, and the Emperor's like, yeah, your puny fleet's gonna get destroyed, and I'm gonna kill you right now too. And you're like, whoa, how are the rebels ever gonna save the day? But at the end, the Ewoks are like, you know, banging the, you know, the helmets of the stormtroopers. And so that's what's gonna happen with us too. You know, the Star Wars says it. I'm optimistic that we can pull out like a Wookiee Ewok alliance. But seriously, fuck, you know, like I've definitely been like, damn, are we really gonna pull this off? Are we gonna like, you know, rescue Earth before we self-destruct? And, you know, I like to have this hippie thought that maybe we'll evolve enough or access enough of our brain to be conscious enough as a humanity to be like, oh, we're acting like a bunch of stupid teenagers culturally. How about we just make sure that everybody's got food and a place to live and close to, and, you know, just everybody be happy. Like, it's super simple. We just gotta figure it out how to distribute all that happiness. But, you know, humans are technically smart enough to pull that off. We've done a lot of other smart things. We just gotta be like more evolved as spirits. And I'm still hoping that in my lifetime we will jump enough of a step to rescue ourselves and then the Earth. And, you know, all of us are, you know, hopefully gonna do our little contribution. We're a small grain of sand in a big beach of other kind of, you know, tides. But I do, what else am I gonna believe? I'm gonna live my life hope I'm done like, nah. But at the same time too, I also accept that if, you know, the Most High, whatever the Creator decides, if we all gotta be washed away, c'est la vie, you know, like at the end of the day, there's just a virtual reality existence that we're coming through briefly, and it's fun and all, and then we'll be on the other side as eternal souls, so it's all good at the end of the day, I guess. But let's make the most out of it, because suffering sucks, you know. I don't want anyone to suffer. That's the bottom line.
Well, I mean, there is the yin and the yang, and as the dark darkens, the light brightens, and I really do see many things brightening. I mean, we are at a festival in Oregon where all kinds of stuff is legal that wasn't legal when I was younger, and you couldn't just, you know, because there's an AstroTurf there, just like, you know, whip out some cannabis. You can't do that. So things are getting better. They're also getting worse. And so we have to, but, you know, it's our job as light workers to bring the light. You see, the dark portal is over there. It's always going to be over there. And when you look through it, you are joined by all the people that are looking through the dark portal. You're joined by everybody who is suffering and unhappy. And they're all agreeing that the world is a very dark and putrid place through that window. But then there's the people who are, you know, enjoying, they're in appreciation, and they're looking through that other portal, the portal of light, where everything's ambrosia and in rainbows, and they're looking through, they're going, oh, the rain, it's so beautiful. So, you know, choose, every moment choose, and then navigate the turn. The navigating the turn part is a very important thing. When you're over there looking through the dark portal and you're just in all kinds of agreement with all the other people that are looking through you have to think of things to appreciate. That's the technique of getting from the dark portal to the light portal. Start thinking of things that you appreciate and think of a few of them, and it'll help you to navigate the turn. So we have to keep looking to the light. That's our job. That's why we're here.
Yeah, optimism. Yeah, it's it's hard. It's we look at the world around us, and it's easy to get jaded. I'm sure everyone here is jaded. I've got more jade than an Asian art history museum. But I think in the past I was more pessimistic. But I have a beautiful 6-month-old daughter now, so I don't have an option. The Nova and the beautiful Martha. So I don't have the luxury or the option to be pessimistic anymore or not hopeful about what's going to be happening. I've got an active horse in the race now, which is an awesome sacred responsibility. But I guess kind of the way I see it is we live in this world of you get infinite possibilities, and everything that happens is a 100% probability of that happening. So we can kind of agree on that. Nothing to clap there, but what makes being an artist, I think my favorite aspect of it, and the thing that makes it sacred or visionary or magical, is that with everything that's with these infinite possibilities, like as an artist, like the edge of that novelty, like the fractal razor burning edge that condenses the infinite possibilities to the 100% probability is our imagination. Like that's the tip of the spear. And as artists, when we're engaging in this creative, all these creative possibilities, this creative force, like that's where we inhabit. We get to inhabit that place where you have the infinite possibilities and you collapse them all, collapse that entire fractal into one 100% probability to then offer that to your community and the world around you. And maybe as artists, like maybe it's about collapsing that possibility into making the mirror that other people need to see to like understand some deeper aspect of themselves. Or maybe, as humans, I don't know if anyone can identify with this, but you have this like amazing visionary experience that opens you up and your heart is connected with the fractal heart of the entire universe, and then like 3 days later it's like you suffer amnesia and you're in traffic and you're like, it's like we have this amnesia where we forget this amazing thing that happens. Part of visionary art, I think the power is that it's, when you hang something up on the wall, I think, I can speak for myself, the experience is I have that there because I want that to be like a bookmark or a reminder that if ever, when this amnesia sets in and separates me from, the power of what it means to be an artist and like ride and surf like the infinite fractal possibilities and deliver the 100% probability, how valuable that is, how meaningful that is. And every time you see a piece of art on the wall, it can be just like a touchstone or a reminder or just like a call to like your higher self. And I think that's, from my experience, I figured that's one of the powers and gifts and like awesome responsibilities that all of us as artists can share and create and all develop together and heal and support each other.
Wow. I look at these artists' work, if I want to get positive and optimistic, I look at how awesome the imagination at this evolving edge is. And that I'm instantly uplifted and taken into the eternities rather than suffering with the times. And that kiss of the divine that comes through all these creative geniuses is nectar distilled from the flower of the soul in the crucible of the studio, as a shot of love, a seed to be planted in the mind stream of all the viewers, to take them to the vistas that the artists have seen, to show them how positive and beautiful the world is. What a spectacle God has unleashed through creation that we get the good fortune to witness. You know, to just simply appreciate the aesthetic majesty of reality, you know, is enough to get me very optimistic, you know. I see, okay, as you were saying, Chris, if it's game over, okay, but we're gonna, you know, keep pumping out the light and love through the whole thing, and I'll see you on the other side, you know. It's because that's what seems true. That's what seems good and beautiful. It's the light of love. It's coming through all of us. And we affirm that. And with that, I believe, because it goes beyond borders, it's a cosmic aspiration of love. And I think that the more, as these festivals are showing, they're demonstrating to the spiritual council above us, saying, look, there's some good shit going on. Like, see that stuff? They still remember the cosmos, and, you know, they're not all obsessed with their little devices and everything. You know, and they're not only making weapons, they're making things to wage peace with. So, I am so honored to be part of this wave of love. That it's a, you know, this is like a orgasm that is like going on for days.
Will somebody quote that, please, somewhere? Yeah, you mentioned, you know, the gratitude you feel, and we probably all feel, for, you know, being blessed with the ability to observe nature in all of its finery and spectacle. We are approaching one of the most exquisite phenomena we have in this world to experience, the perfection of the ratio of the distance to our sun with the moon. I mean, that alone really should just, like, you know, keep us completely activated every moment of our life, just to know that the unique, special improbability of what we have here on Earth, our relationship to the celestial bodies, with each other, with the land and everything. I mean, this could be it. This could be the only biosphere in the entire universe, at least as far as we've been able to see, you know. And we are days away from witnessing altogether this moon shadow that, you know, only slices a small part of the Earth at a time. And I know personally I've experienced one with you, Luke, in Turkey in 2006, and I'm sure you weren't there. You were there, actually. But anyway, I mean, like...
We did Australia.
Australia, okay. Who here has seen a full solar eclipse? Okay, how about you guys out there? Okay, so, okay, you know, so... It's a marvel that defies all description, you know? Like, all the bullshit we've dealt with to get in here, and everything that, you know, we've suffered together, it will be a forgotten memory when that sun is eclipsed by the moon. And I'm just maybe, you know, like, what do we do with that, you know? It's like, there's something that happens inside that you just can't describe. And how do we embrace and, you know, use what we get with that, you know? Like, how do we open ourselves to the juice that will be, you know, cascading into our hearts and minds from that 2.5 minutes?
Well, you said something yesterday. Would you say what you said about what is the metaphor of this?
Well, you can go in a lot of different directions with that, but the one that I prefer is that it's the sun and moon, the lunar-solar conjunction, they kiss. for a prolonged kiss. And that magical, silvery, alchemical light is set off in an unforgettable cosmic resonance, that the great mystery beyond, the black sun, that's an alchemical state, you know? And so, and for us, it's like everything goes gray, so we love it, you know? Anyway, but I think that, think of it as polar unity. You know, it's the moment when you can sense the utter ridiculous balance of those forces and your ability to witness it. Open your soul as fully as possible to this cosmic moment. The sun will look like it's the pupil of the sky.
We're not talking Sauron either. So I think maybe we'll take the rest of the time to maybe open up a dialogue with you guys. You know, I just ask if anybody has a question or whatever, keep it succinct and relevant to what we're talking about here. So whoever wants to maybe form like a little line or something here so we can share the mic so we can hear your question. Or
I'm very loud.
Okay, go for it.
How important is skill to visionary art? Skill. How important is skill to visionary art? How important is skill?
Well, being able to render, you know, what the mind's eye see is very important. So, you know, you can still tap into that current and express yourself through it, you know, but refining the skills to be able to articulate and render, you know, some of the things in the resolution and detail that we receive in our mind is important. So, you know, drawing from nature is a really, you know, important process, just to be able to draw what you see, you know, in your eyes versus. Exactly. Yeah, you're diversifying your vocabulary, you know, and there's unattachment to any particular, you know, medium or process. You know, it's all about surrender. You know, there's something inside you that you're feeling that wants to be expressed. You know, just like don't worry about like any comparisons. Just surrender and, you know, let go of any of your anxiety or fear about doing it. Just go for it. You know, like push that art pedal to the floor, as Terrence McKenna would say.
Well, I also am very excited to see the visionary art world opening up to abstract visionary artists and even conceptual performance visionary artists and other than rendered image oriented visionary artists, which most of the people on this panel are somewhat, but then there's symbolists like Chris, who's really, you know, a more symbolic renderer. And then there's, you know, the Further Collective. They're having a wonderful place that they're creating over there that is just extraordinary. And I love their work. I love the work of Ollie Vernon and Mars Wan and Damon Sewell and all of the abstract visionaries, Vibrata Chromodoros and myself and other people whose work goes outside of the imagist. So it's like visionary art is art of the vision. It's art of your inner realm. It's so some of us make art that doesn't include the people that are having the experience, but rather just the inner experience. And it's been done like that in non-iconic religions that you know that are not all into the graven image. So they do create visionary, amazing, the Alhambra and other mosques and synagogues that use pattern and decoration, and many primitive artists who you know, Pablo Amaringo and other primitive artists who are inspired by their visions, but also are not, you know, the skilled renderers that some of the people on this, but they're extremely skilled. What is skill? You know, so everybody's skill involves a different process, and I think there's quite a few representatives here who well, I mean, look at your work with the skill that you do, and you make those portals. It's nothing to do with drawing and rendering so much as visioning, and then manifesting your creations. They're extraordinary works. So it's very wide. It's very wide. Sculpture, monumental sculpture, placemaking. This is incredible. Everywhere, placemaking, like stuff that climbing tree houses and things like that. This is an incredible visionary realm of architecture. So anyway.
I think ultimately it comes down to practice.
Practice.
Just keep doing it, whatever it is.
Yes, I have a question for Amanda. Amanda, would you say if and how Waldorf education might have impacted your creativity?
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, she asked how Waldorf education may have impacted my creativity. Well, I think it definitely supported it. So, because we would draw all the time and sing and write stories, full spectrum, and I think, I felt nothing but supported. It was awesome.
How do you get over a perfectionist mentality?
So we often quote one of our favorites, Salvador Dali, who said, "Have no fear of perfection, you'll never achieve it." So I think the artist's goal is kind of always out of reach, and you should always strive toward perfection. But really, it's a constant practice to allow yourself to be satisfied knowing that you've done your best, and to strive for something better. And your vision should be out of your reach. It's of another realm, and you're limited to this finite three-dimensional physical dimension. So there is going to be a gap between the physical and the divine, and to strive for that perfection is a lofty mission.
I think we can all relate to obsessive compulsive tendencies to some degree. Really, OCD should be spelled CDO in alphabetical order.
Or just OC. It doesn't have to be a disorder.
What are the different ways you access and release and transmit the visions?
I could like to talk to that. First of all, I wanted to say about the last question that creative discontent is the force that moves your work forward. Okay, so when you're feeling dissatisfied with your work, this is a good thing, because you're saying I could do better, and then you have to distinguish how could I do it better, and then do it again. You see, don't be frustrated. It's a flow. That's all. You're just one step at a time. But the creative discontent is a good thing. Then the other question was, how do you have you go inside and you have the vision. Then you have to take that vision and you have to turn it into marks. What tools am I going to use? Is it going to be a flat-ferruled brush or a pointy brush? Am I going to use the ultramarine blue or cobalt violet? Should I do this piece in acrylic, or should I start it out as a so you're making marks. You're taking that vision and you're turning it in to activation out in the world. I mean, the vision doesn't have, watercolor in it. It's just a vision. So then you've got to make those decisions into your rational mind about how you're going to put it down. So first of all, start cultivating visions. The way you cultivate visions is when you have them, you notate them. You always have a sketchbook. You always have a journal. You write down and you write and make drawings, little notations of them, and by honoring them, you'll have more of them. Okay, I'm just telling you. Put down your dreams, make drawings of your dreams, put down your visions, make drawings of your visions, and then you need to create a practice. You need an art practice in order to develop. It's like if you were doing yoga. you would just say, okay, I'm going to do it sometimes, maybe, but I don't know where. No, you got to create a practice. A practice is something that you do over and over again. It isn't something that's, right or wrong or perfect or ever has a goal. It's just something you do over and over again, and you will see progress in your work if you practice.
We've all seen visionary artists turn out to be much better prophets than chickens because they don't always take themselves so seriously. They tap into things that are emergent from the collective unconscious. And Alex has written about things related to his painting, the Gaia tree, I think it was called, related to 9/11, and another artist whose work, in a very literal way, seemed to have a premonition of September 11th. But aside from specifics, I'm wondering what are the emergent evolutionary themes that you guys are seeing that seem to have a really numinous charge right now that maybe you've seen you have in common with other visionary artists. I'm wondering what motivation seems to really stand out right now as having a powerful charge.
Yeah, that's a good question for sure. Yeah.
Here, he's.
I got you.
So the question is about visionary artists turn out to be far better prophets than religionists because they don't take themselves so seriously and they have a very open connection to the collective unconscious. So Alex, for example, has written about examples from his painting, I think it's called the Gaia tree, related to 9/11, and I've written about this subject. And so we look to visionary artists to see images of the future and evolutionary themes that are emergent in the collective. So I'm wondering for you guys, what are the themes that right now seem to be really numinous, to have a charge, and that you see as emergent, not just in your own artwork, but you're seeing it, wow, this other person is painting an image of the same thing that I'm seeing. I'm wondering, what are those things that are really lighting up for you right now, and that we should all pay attention to?
Great
question. Mr. Jones?
Yeah, great question, Jonathan. Sometimes we're pretty good at it. 2012. I think a lot of us. I screwed up on that one. I put a bunch of stock into that went nowhere. So we don't always hit the mark. Just as for the record, I did predict Trump, though. I will say that I definitely predicted Trump. No, as far as like emergent themes, and I think a lot of times the artists we're trying to like encourage and support and kind of plant seeds for the future, but. It's definitely something that it's beyond my imagination, like what is going to happen out there. But some of the emergent themes that I see that I deal with in my work, obviously, are a lot of the themes within technology, within a human being, and our ability to create a more intimate interface and connection with technology. And I see technology as an extension of the actual Mother Earth, like the crystals and magnesium and iron and copper. I see that, when I use technology in art, it's really about how do I merge every organic and electric aspect of myself with the best available tools that are like the body of Mother Earth to create something. And so within the realms of these virtual reality worlds, we have the ability to create these whole new worlds. I think there's a lot of kind of like emergent discussions around the subjectivity of like what is reality. I think we're really starting to like challenge that, seeing that some people are seeing different types of realities. And from an artist perspective, over the next decade or so, a lot of my challenge is kind of seeing what are the fundamental principles of this reality that we can be created within art, within a virtual realm, to kind of like extract and condense and creating experiences that are visionary and meaningful and powerful for people, and how we can kind of explore that. One of the themes I'm going with.
Yeah, I also think it's really interesting that artists have the unique ability and position to sort of be subversive and activist and say things that like you could get into a lot of trouble for saying and doing, but you can just like draw it into an image and leave it up to the viewer to determine what it means. So we have like the security and safety of our studios, and we could say a lot. I mean, I think of like the puppeteer piece you did back in the day with like the two hands of the Democratic and the Republican Party all just coming from like the overlord, you know, like talk about that kind of thing a lot, you know, you're gonna get yourself into a lot of trouble. And I mean, like Gaia as well, you know, the things in so much of your work as well, you know, exposes this darkness, you know, and they don't want to be revealed, they don't want to be exposed, but like, you know, luckily we have the freedom to paint what we want, you know, and we could say things that can convey a lot more than like somebody with a picket on the street, you know, it's subversive activism that like we have the unique ability to wield, you know, the vampire squid piece of yours, you know, it's just like really depicts, right, that's what it's called? Yeah, I mean, it's it's just like, whoa, you know, it's like this darkness needs to be revealed, you know, like they've had too much time to hide in the shadows, and, you know, they need to be rooted out, you know, and I think like art is one of the most powerful tools, you know, it transcends the veiling walls of the ego and mind and penetrates deep into our cellular, you know, experience, and that's why it's more important now than ever to really, you know, push that, you know, expose the light and the beauty and the possibility while also exposing the darkness and what we're up against, because we need to. They can't no longer like continue to work, you know, as they are, you know, in secrecy. So, you know, visual art is just it now with social media and the internet. It's just spreading like wildfire. So that's another reason I'm optimistic, because yeah, the you know, the left brain, the language centers, you know, it just completely circumvents that, and it's that juice, that inspiration that you get from this work that we try to convey with the art, which is the most important thing. It's just to inspire, to, you know, ignite that spark within, to be utilized for whatever it is we choose to do in our lives with the tools that we've been given, you know. And that's what, for me, like my biggest, you know, impetus is to like inspire others, you know, whatever that means, because we all are harnessing this energy, and we're creative humans and as animals. We're here to create, you know, and I think that's the most important thing, is to like recognize that in each other and, you know, share this inspiration, because as that inspiration grows, it grows onto others, and it's a snowballing effect that's happening. And this model here, where we all come together with a format that allows us all to contribute our passion and our love and our creativity into one synergistic model, that is the healing that our planet needs right now, because it's powerful, and this is being felt all over the world right now, at the universe. It's just like, it's happening now, here, everywhere, you know, it's all just this much creativity and juice is really the most powerful thing on the planet, and everyone is feeling this, you know, this is like having an effect on everyone, on everything. So we really need to be confident in that and understand that, and really receive the inspiration that's around us and harness it and share it, you know, like, please.
On the same subject as before, about the continual revealing and the affirmation through synchronicity and, you know, being a part of some kind of higher orchestrative unfolding that we're just accessing, and just, you know, for me, my creative process is just about creating the proper conditions for that access. And I've had this continuous experience in multiple forms with this team in particular, and with a few others that we've been part of the same circuit for however many years, and we might not see each other for a year. There might be minimal communication, or we're not exactly, you know, cross-pollinating our ideas over the internet. It just will show up at the same event after not seeing each other for a year, and we might have the same title of the same painting that we're bringing, or the composition could be photoshopped overlay, and it'd be the same thing. You know, it's been staggering for me to see that, and I know that we all have the same kind of relationship with that condition. We all live our lives in a way that, you know, our devotion to our craft is more important than anything, and everything in our lives have to submit to that that devotion to our art, and for me that like what comes through is just the access to that current that's informing all observable phenomena. And so when we meet each other and it's obvious that we're accessing some kind of hyperdimensional hive mind, information current, that's an amazing thing to me.
Also, to answer or help answer your question, what occurred to me was that art, it's already underneath everything. So when we see this sort of blossom with some divine, idea or premonition, that's not unlikely, because like we were in New York City recently. We were on the train, and we talked about how the Coca-Cola can in the gutter in every building that we could see in the train we were sitting in all began its physical form in this world as a drawing, pencil to paper. Money is literally art. Paper currency is a piece of artwork. This structure we're sitting in was a drawing, and that one, and the hat you're wearing. So art's already this huge, cellular force in what we're doing. So yeah, I think I would like to see more pictures and paintings of vegetable gardens on top of skyscrapers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think maybe the what seems to be painting premonitions or things that you find in your painting that actually end up happening later are because we're all trying to open ourselves up to the space where our mental part of ourselves aren't interfering with whatever's coming through us onto the canvas. If you're a more intuitive painter, you might not know why you're painting something at first, but later the reason ends up showing itself to you and revealing itself. And I think a lot of us find that even with a planned out painting, and similar themes can arise because we are also in the same circles, but also trying to access that same kind of straight from whatever it is that goes through us onto the canvas. And I think I do agree that one of the underlying themes you see a lot is the darkness and light together, that they're both part of the same thing, and we need to at least understand and walk through the darkness to fully embrace and understand the light. They are all a part of the same thing, and I think when we end up ultimately, with an optimistic image, that's where you find your power. If you're lost in the pessimism, then you're almost giving up your power as a human to want to move forward and to bring the light and to inspire. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of what I have to say about that.
Pertaining to your question about artists or visionary artists being more capable of being successful prophets than religious ones. I grew up reading science fiction books from the 60s and 70s, Arthur C. Clarke, Heinlein, Jack Vance, and I feel like they are, maybe they're not trying to be, but a lot of them are like Nostradamus, you're trying to predict the future, and a lot of them are more dystopian, some terrible thing befalls the human race, but there's always this shining light at the end of the tunnel, and so I've always felt like what we're all trying to do is, we're not. I definitely don't take myself seriously with it, but I definitely take what I'm trying to convey very seriously, and yeah.
Yeah, to add on to that question you had about like what unites us, for me, visionary art is positive spiritual art. So I would like to think positive, spiritual people. There's other kinds of visionary art in other parts of the world, like in Europe or even Australia, or like you can even just see a Giger that also is visionary but goes more into the darkness. In general, we can shine a little bit of light on the darkness, but I think we in general tend to point more onto the other spectrum, because there's not enough of that in the world, you know. So we're trying to bring something, you know, which whatever you put your attention on, it grows. So if we're creating these images that help us focus that meditational energy into creating images that reflect our higher self, you know, or higher worlds, like Amanda, too bad she took off, but I think, you know, she's been drawing a lot of these utopian societies, and that's awesome, you know, because that way we have something to point at. Or like, you know, if you paint beings are like godly, empowered, whatever enlightenment is, if we can do symbolically representation that we can all understand, once again, we got something to point at. And I think that's what's gonna like save us from the darkness, us pointing towards godly, our godly aspect of humanity, and then manifesting it more into the world.
Well, art is an attractor, and good art, well done art, skilled art is definitely an attractor, and art does change everything. So, like, I was thinking about how, you know, when my parents were growing up, they would go see Captain Planet and like, I forget the names of them, but they would go to the moon, you know. Flash Gordon, right, Flash Gordon, and they would go to the moon, and my grandmother would laugh and think that was so funny, you know, going to the moon and everything. But my parents' generation was like the Kennedy generation, so it's like they, you know, they were inspired to go to the moon. You know, and I really do think that artists do change things and do, you know, make we have to vision the future that we want to live into. You know, you're not going to make a future that you live into unless you vision it first. So visioning world peace is a very important thing to do. You know, we have to vision some peace in the world. You know, in the 70s, people actually, the statistics show that people actually thought that there would be a time in history, in the future, where there would not be war. You know, they did like surveys. And today, not so much. You know, we have to go back there and start visioning world peace. You know, is there going to be a time in the world where we're going to stop fighting? Well, in our world, we stop fighting. We're peaceful. Noticed? It's peaceful here. We all love each other. We trust each other.
Okay, I think we're running short, but I think I want to give everybody who wants to here an opportunity to plug their thing, you know, share their schedule, whatever pertinent information they might have to help you guys all enjoy what it is they do here or elsewhere.
Carey, I want to thank you for assembling this epic group of visionary artists.
My pleasure, for sure.
I'm so inspired. Well, we are also looking forward to sharing the work of the International Visionary Artists movement at Entheon, which we hope to have open next year. And we're just very excited about it. If you haven't heard about it, buildentheon.com. It's been supported by thousands of people from around the world, and we're so grateful that a community has come together and helping us to build a sanctuary of visionary art. This is, as you've all been pointing out, these are visions of light. These are things that can encourage and uplift people, and they get to see the sacredness of reality. So this is the reason we all feel it's a sacred art. We started a church, so to say so, you know. So we're a stand for visionary art. We love you guys. Thank you. Yep. And
art is a spiritual practice. But I wanted to say that while we're here, we are doing a talk. Are we not? Eli? Is Eli here? Tomorrow we're doing a talk here.
Same time, I believe.
Same time. See, Alexa knows. So 6 o'clock, 6:30. So if you want to come and just join us for that, if you're around, and we'll be on the stage painting with Simon Posford after the. If it happens, the next thing that happens is Simon Posfer on the main stage, and we're going to be there. So anyway, after that, we'll be at Burning Man in the Bronner Foam Dome. Come get foamed. It's the shower you'll never forget. But meanwhile, we're all going to be here having the best time, and thank you so much for coming.
So, yeah, Carey, thanks so much. This has been a great panel. So things coming up for the event. Some of you guys have had a chance to explore, but if you just kind of head towards the direction of my finger down there, you'll encounter this amazing two-story structure that I'm calling like the Wook Barbie Dream House, and that happens to be an incredible gallery that was curated by Jesse Cohen and designed by Nolan, and it's going to have they've just put so much, an unreasonable amount of attention and love and effort into making this, I think, one of the best kind of temporary festival galleries I have seen, maybe ever. And if you're there, right next door, we've got a dome. That's going to be our microdose kind of dome. It's runs about from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., kind of sunset to sunrise, kind of starting maybe tomorrow. And we've also put an unreasonable amount of like energy and gear and fragile electric things together to try to make this new VR immersive experience that we've been building. So you definitely check those two things out.
Yeah, awesome things happening around here. I got a humble mural happening between the art gallery and Android's crazy dome of magic. If you come and visit me, I'll give you a free sticker. And I can hug you. And if you want to buy some of my stuff, that's cool. Yeah, totally. So, yeah, but, either way, come and give me a hug. Peace. Oh, website? No, who cares? Just look for Chris Dyer.
So my husband, David Heskin, who's out there, and I just finished, we just finished running the Elemental Alchemy Visual Arts program here and teaching along with Alex and Allyson and the invisible Amanda Sage for the last week, so that was pretty incredible with 30 students. And we teach workshops all over the place. So we're in Seattle next weekend teaching a 3-day oil painting workshop, and we're out at COSM in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, beginning of September, to teach a 5-day oil painting workshop there. And from there to London, we'll be in Australia at the end of this year. And we have a gallery in Colorado called Luminous Flux. So that's our main project right now. Thanks.
I'll be teaching in Vienna, September 20th to October 18th at the Visionary Art Academy, back to back with Chris Dyer over here. So, now you know.
We do a yearly workshop, and one of our favorite things that we're so grateful for is our workshop at COSM. So come see us there, go support COSM. We have a painting intensive that's 5 days long, and in the Sylvan Heavenly bed and breakfast visionary thing that they have going on in upstate New York. You must visit. Please come and take our class. And we'll be down here by Further Life Painting, and we have stickers too. So come see us all weekend.
So I'll be painting down at the MOBA Gallery, and I'll be painting, I'm doing a collab with Ken Baltatat. And I'll also be teaching a one-day class at COSM that you guys can sign up for if you like on September 8th, right before their full moon gathering. And also I wanted to give a shout out to Paneros Collective, which is a collective that I'm part of. And we have a gallery, psychedelic art gallery in Nevada City in Northern California. So please come and check it out. We've got my art and a bunch of other amazing psychedelic and visionary artists' work.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you all. Myself, I am shifting gears a bit in my life. I'm moving with my family to Costa Rica this fall to create a psychedelic visionary sanctuary, like with permaculture, youth education, where we want to just host groups, host people, host artists, musicians, basically to feel the magic of the land, and recalibrate and reset ourselves. It's, an opportunity to share and create a, it's a node on this planetary matrix web that I think is a collective vision that we all share, and it's been a dream of mine that's now coming full circle 17 years later, and everything has fallen in place beautifully, and I look forward to possibly hosting you and all of you, of course. Please, the invite is there, and I will definitely create a space for us to teach and learn and cross-pollinate with everything. So I'm really happy that it's all coming together, and thank you all for attending this panel, and I hope you guys have a beautiful experience here in Eclipse and all that, and safe journeys wherever you're going.